Hey friends, are you still charging way less than you should be? Yeah, a lot of you are. So meet me in the video and let's figure this out. Let me tell you a story about a designer that early in her career, she really was seeing already, maybe year 3 or 4, that she just was never going to get there financially at the rate she was charging. And so she hired a coach, and in a very short time, she quadrupled her income. Huge, game-changing moment. Guess what? That designer was me. And in year 4 of my business, I hired a coach. And I remember how terrified I was to charge the way she taught me. And it was such a huge amount of money compared to what I had charged in the past. But guess what? I pitched it and instantly the client said yes. And I thought, I left so much money on the table. So I raised my rates on the next job and the next job and the next job. And before I knew it, I had gone from a measly hourly rate to 5- and 6-figure design fees and getting the jobs of my dreams. So what happened? What changed? How did that work? Let's break it down together, okay? First, let me tell you about one of my favorite quotes on this topic. Alan Weiss, who wrote a book called Value-Based Fees, says in his book that consultants don't really charge what the client will pay based on the client's value of what you do, but instead they charge based on the consultants, that's me and you, based on our low self-esteem, right? So we're really not even thinking about what our worth is to the client. We're thinking about our worth as our self-worth, and that's a really tricky spot to be. So you've got to really dig in and figure out what it is you do of value, and then start charging for that. So let's think about this for a minute. Are you charging the going rate in your area? Did you just look around and see what other people are charging, or did you think, well, that guy's charging X amount of dollars and I'm way less experienced than him, so I have to charge a fraction of what he charges? Well, let me tell you something. Charging the going rate often means you're charging the going out of business rate, because you have no idea what that person's business looks like. You aren't looking at his books. You haven't seen his financials. You don't know if he's barely hanging on by a thread or he's actually making money. So that is definitely not the way to decide your fees. The other thing I want you to think about is possibly the reason you're not making the money that you'd like to is because you aren't putting anything of really high value out into the world. If you're creating designs like I would in interior design, and what you're doing is just taking things that are readily available in the market and maybe making a pretty room out of it, that's not that valuable. Clients can find those products and that kind of help all over the place. A lot of times even the help, the labor part, is free. So you've got to really think, what can I do that's going to change my clients' lives? What can I do that's going to create an emotional impact for them? What can I do to really solve my clients' key problems? When you do that, charging what you're worth becomes so much easier. And you have to remember that the consumer is always changing. Today's consumer, or buyer as we call them, is far different than they were just 2 or 3 or 5 years ago. So you have to stay on top of who your ideal consumer or client is and what it is that they really want and need. Because if you can stay on top of that, if you can pair solving their problems with charging your worth, that's when the magic really happens. So a few years ago, I decided that I didn't need to be the only designer with all of this great pricing information. I wanted to share it with the world and our industry. And that's when I created my signature course, my most popular course ever, Designer MBA. And now Designer MBA is only available inside of my DesignYou coaching program. And in fact, it's all new content based on today's consumer that I just created recently. And it's definitely a course you don't want to miss if you're still struggling with charging what you're worth. So join me in the DesignYou program, because you can't afford to wait another minute to start charging what you're worth. Let me be that coach that I had for you. So thanks for watching today, and I'll see you again really soon.